Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot, I put that on everything.
Hey, Craig!
It's on you, it's all on me. Can't you see? It's on you, it's all on me. You and me, can't you? It's on you, it's on me.
Hey, Craig. Right or wrong, we don't care. Win or lose, we don't care. We don't care. We don't care.
Hey, Jeff.
Woo!
It's nice to only have been talking to you for a couple minutes when we just started recording.
Yeah, we definitely did not spend a half an hour recording another segment before this segment. That definitely did not happen.
Definitely did not.
I'm definitely not getting ready to start my second beer.
Nope. I haven't. I definitely have not already started my second beer. Yeah, so this is Podcast versus Everyone. We're back, baby. Episode 167.
We are back.
I'm Craig Powers. With me, as always, Jeff Newser. And
That's
Jeff,
me.
I cannot believe it's been this long since we
It's been
recorded
almost 2
an
months.
episode. Yeah. So, well, if you were listening to this without any explanation, like it's gonna, like the ending's not gonna make sense now. But yeah, so in that time, I got married. Woo! Yay.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
we
you were
went
there?
to Mexico. Yeah, we went to Mexico and drank a lot of tequila.
Woo.
Yeah, a lot of tequila. And gorgeous resort. Beautiful
Gorgeous
views of the coast.
Some good things to say about the resort. Beautiful resort. Good food.
Yeah.
Good drinks.
Yeah.
For some reason, let us have multiple parties until 2 a.m. in my hotel room.
Yeah,
I have no idea how
I
that
will
worked.
say their ability to create hotel rooms that are virtually soundproof to the people next door was really impressive. Really, really impressive. Because we had a couple. Yeah, the night of your wedding.
The night of my wedding, 40 to 45 people in.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a large hotel room, but it's not like
Yeah, I mean, it was a suite.
in the bedrooms. No one was in the 2 bedrooms. Everyone was over
we were
just the closest to the room next door. Literally 40 people either out on the out on the balcony where everyone could hear, and then completely crammed in like the living room, kitchen area.
Yep.
It just and Bluetooth speaker blaring.
It was the best way I can describe what that was like an apartment party at CCN. Like it was like
it had
tons of people.
Oh, it was even the floor was disgusting. It was disgusting.
People were falling down because the floor was disgusting. Like,
well, there was a plunge
there were
pool
drinks
in
on
the
the
room.
floor.
Plunge pool, though. We can blame it on that too.
We did have
But
that.
There was definitely a lot of drinks on the floor.
I definitely fell next to the plunge pool. I was not prepared for the channel around it and stepped in the channel and then fell. And the next day I was like looking and I'm like, man, my back kind of hurts. And, and then I took my shirt off and Sarah's like, oh my God. Sarah's like, oh my God. And I'm like, what? I had a giant bruise. I had like a giant purple bruise on my hip. And Sarah's like, I was like, oh shit, I did fall. I forgot about that. It was wild, y'all. It was wild. We took the Cougs to Cabo and we showed them a good time.
Yeah, I was. The hotel, maybe the people that the managers, maybe they weren't the nicest to us. Maybe grossly understaffed, which is probably just a thing in Cabo, I think, at this point. But you know, maybe it was weird that an all-inclusive, they made you sign for everything that you got.
That was the weirdest thing.
That was pretty weird. But otherwise, you know, the weather scare obviously made us move it up a day. That was wild. And then to almost just not have the wedding in like a windowless room, to having it actually the wedding and the reception in beautiful places turned out great. A lot of fun. Glad you were there, buddy, as my best man, of course.
It was the best.
Yeah, the best. Great times, especially that boat ride that I spent most of it laying down with my eyes closed.
Yeah. Okay, so you reference the weather. I think people need to understand there was like a hurricane out in the ocean, which was like we did not get like, you know, what you would think of like the hurricane effects. But if you've ever been like around a hurricane, you know, there's like this sort of like the outskirts of the storm where, you know, you get rain and all kinds of stuff. So we had a day with rain. At least it rained pretty hard overnight and into the morning. That was the day that Craig and Amanda were supposed to have their ceremony. And then, so it got moved up a day. And then, so then the boat ride we were supposed to go on got pushed back like 2 days or 3 days or whatever it was. So we go on the boat ride. Well, as it turns out, you know, when there's a hurricane off the shore, the water, even though the hurricane has sort of dissipated at that point, you know, I mean, there's waves and stuff. And so they took us, like, this boat, like, went up the coast and it went like parallel to the coast, which means you were also sort of parallel to all the waves. And so like the boat was like doing this, like rocking from side to side to side to side. And it was, I did okay. Cause I don't get motion sick too easy, but you were in bad shape. Sarah was in bad shape along with like 10 other people who were in bad shape.
It was like a 50-50 from what I've heard.
Yeah. Yeah,
like
it was.
Either you were going to be living your worst life or you were going to be living your best life. Either way.
I mean, there were a number of people who were toughing it out. Like Corey toughed it out, even though he was, you know, clearly miserable. And it was, it was rough. And then there was, you know, and Amanda was just living her best life, man. She was loving it the whole way. So it was awesome. Yeah.
I mean, she was loving it once she just realized that I wasn't going to die and could just like leave me alone. So it was, but we're going to, you know, do a 1-year anniversary on a boat, that I won't get sick on cause it'll be on a Lake Union. That'll be fine.
That'll be perfect.
And we went out to, the Sound down, Olympia, by Boston Harbor in Olympia. This weekend, the calmest waters ever on like a much tinier sailboat, and no problems there. So hoping that just won't be a curse to get sick on a boat forever. But yeah, so I got married. That was cool. Lots of fun. Sorry you guys weren't there, unless you were. Some of you, like probably, I don't know, a few of you were. You should have been there though. You know, I don't know what you were thinking. You should have come to my wedding. It was super fun.
Totally.
But yeah, I got married. I'm wearing a ring. Clanging on the microphone.
Yep, there it is. Click, click, click.
There it is. Yep. Yeah, so all that. But, you know, I couldn't enjoy my wedding for too long. Because not too long after, like pretty shocking news, like USC and UCLA leave the Pac-12.
Yeah. I mean, what the hell were they thinking, man? They couldn't just let you enjoy your wedding for a little while longer?
I know. Come on. I have to like think about fucking WSU in the big sky now? What is going on?
Yeah.
No, that was obviously everyone. This is so long ago at this point. So no, we don't need to explain.
Yeah, this is not new news, but
yeah. But obviously, whatever, California, like the UC system is kind of maybe trying to keep UCLA in there, but that probably won't work. I'm pretty sure the Big Ten will get them. But yeah, and so now, what the last however long it's been has just been speculation about what's going to happen next. Because obviously the Big 12 is losing their two biggest brands. Pac-12 losing, definitely one of its biggest brands, and one of it, and then the other, like two of the biggest brands football wise, probably the one biggest brand, and then maybe like the fifth biggest brand, but especially when you've looked at the TV data. But yeah, so now it's been, will the Big 12 or the Pac-12 absorb each other? And the funny thing is, the Big 12 schools seem to have this like inflated idea of what they are without Texas and Oklahoma. But what we're learning is what they are without Texas, Oklahoma is not much.
No,
and not a lot of big brands. Like I mentioned, the TV data. If you take out the four big brands that are leaving the conferences, and games against those teams, WSU, if you look at the two conferences, and I think including ACC a bit too, I think, like WSU was fourth in terms of average viewers, in terms of games over 1 million viewers, which is honestly shocking to me, like a little shocking to me. And the funny thing is I have the Big 12 schools are kind of learning that maybe they don't have the profile that they do. And what I've been feeling is that WSU might be a bigger fish than everyone thinks they are. Because the thing is, like, WSU, like, people always say the markets, but WSU and UW essentially have the same market. It's not, most of the viewers are in Seattle. It's whatever.
right.
But and I think that it's what we kind of thought, and then now we're kind of discovering when we actually look at the data. Yeah, like WSU is not this tiny brand just because Pullman is small.
I do wonder to some degree how much those numbers will actually like obviously there are concrete numbers that say WSU is a pretty big TV draw, right? But I'm also like, when we think of like brand size or whatever, where it's like, however you want to define, sort of the attractiveness of the brand. I mean, I kind of don't know how really to say it, but it's like, WSU's not sexy, right? Like it's not, you're not going to look at that and go like, oh yeah, we got to have that brand in our whatever conference.
But the thing is, what's the entire reason for any of this moving around? What are they chasing?
Yeah. I mean, ideally you would think they're chasing eyeballs, right? Like,
yeah,
it's
they're
not
chasing because that's what I mean. I assume if I was a TV network owner, my advertising dollars are based on how many people are watching my show, especially with live sports, where people are much more likely to actually watch the commercials.
Right.
You'd think that the actual number of viewers would matter instead of this like perceived brand value. But I kind of, I kind of tend to agree with you, like that. I don't know if these will move that, like the actual viewers will move the needle as much when the kind of the brand values are already kind of ingrained into people. Like, well,
right.
Pullman's a small school from a small town, like as if like only people from Pullman go to WSU or something.
Right.
It's like kind of weird. It's
right.
like, yeah, like it's that. Again, same market as UW. It's not any different. That's why it's not surprising that their numbers are good. This is a pretty strong TV market, high NBA. Whatever. But it's it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. It kind of like it seemed like the Big 12 assumed they could grab whoever they wanted.
Yes.
From from the Pac-12, and I think we've easily seen that was not true. Like Oregon and Washington and Stanford and Cal, or Arizona State, weren't just going to jump over, because there isn't some, without Oklahoma and Texas, Big 12, the remaining teams, not 10, but the remaining teams, like they don't have the brand strength that they maybe thought they did because they were associated with Texas and Oklahoma.
Right. It was never, it was sort of crazy to me how when all of this went down, obviously people react very quickly, right? Like, oh, this has happened. Okay, so let's game this out, and we're gonna figure out. Okay, well, obviously the Big 12 is gonna absorb the four corner schools from the Pac-12, and blah 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 blah. And it's like these things don't happen that fast, right? And the Pac-12, like when you look at what's left of the Pac-12 now, or Pac-10, I guess is whatever it is. But when you look at what's left is still better than what's left in the Big 12. Like, I think that's pretty indisputable. Now the question is, obviously everybody was sort of assuming that the Big 10 was going to come for Washington and Oregon at some point, and that may still happen. But until that happens, I don't know, like what's left of the Pac-12, the 10 teams that are left are stronger than the Big 12, provided that Oregon and Washington are still, involved in the conference. Now, if the Big 10 decides, we want to add Washington and Oregon and Cal and Stanford, then obviously that's a totally different deal. But for now, what the Pac-10's got going on, is still better than the Big 12. I maintain that the best path forward for both of those conferences is to merge into a super conference, just get ahead of that curve. Like we've been talking. Yeah, I mean, look, you and I have been talking
plus teams.
Yes. You and I have been talking for months on this podcast, even before this happened with USC and UCLA, about like where this is probably all heading, right? And the Big 12 and the Pac-12 would be smart to just combine. Like, okay, so the Big 10 and the SEC are heading towards super conferences. Well, why not make your own super conference first? Well, I think the reason why they're not going to make their super conference first is because the TV partners that are available are not interested in another super conference. Like, I think what you've got is ESPN is all in on the SEC. Fox is all in on the Big 10. And so what does that leave for a potential super conference with the Pac-12 and the Big 12? Amazon, Apple, NBC. I don't think NBC's interested, right? Because Notre Dame, unless Notre Dame joins the Big 10, right? Like, so you just the TV partners don't want the Pac-12 and the Big 12 to join forces. They don't want all of that inventory tied up in those two. Like that's like their worst case scenario, is to have those two conferences join up and leverage what they've, all of the inventory that they've got. So I don't know, man. I think it's silly that the Big 12 and the Pac-12 are fighting. I think it's silly that they can't get together and combine in some way. Each conference thinks they have the upper hand. When in reality, they're probably in a stalemate, right? Like, they're not, they're just hurting each other in the meantime, while the SEC and the Big 10, execute their hostile takeover of college athletics. So I wish they'd get together and figure it out, but also, we're talking about college athletics, they don't, we have a long history of them not doing things that are sensible. So, it's when it comes down to it, I mean, look, we have the same concern, which is what happens to Wazoo. And, I know there's a certain segment of our fan base that is, feels like, oh, good, we can finally get out of the rat race, which I don't disagree in a vacuum. Like, I don't think that's a horrible thing to think in a vacuum, right? But we don't live in a vacuum. This isn't a vacuum, and our debt structure does not support getting out of the rat race yet. Because we've taken on debt in the with the idea that we are going to be in a Power 5 conference, making Power 5
Yeah,
broadcast revenue.
Let's just be clear, like the Mountain West, like the Pac-12 has the lowest TV deal, probably behind, like it's so low behind.
Yeah, I mean, it's
behind the SEC.
It's right.
and Big Ten.
It's right there. Yeah, that's the thing. It's right there with the Big 12
it's with
and
the other
ACC,
three,
but not with those two.
Yeah, but Mountain West teams, if WSU gets 20 million, Mountain West teams get like 3 million from their conference.
And WSU's getting more than that.
deal.
Like we're getting we're pushing, I think, 30 million at this point.
Yeah.
I think, something like that. Yeah, and
So,
the Mountain West, I think, is like 4 million.
Yeah, it's not. It's such a big stark difference, and WSU and Oregon State dropping down to the Mountain West is not going to move that needle very much. They probably will. They probably will be able to get a better deal. Having a big brand in the state of Washington, a big brand in the state of Oregon, that definitely would help them. Increases their footprint, whatever. But it's not getting to 10 million. It's maybe to 6 or 7. It's not going to be anywhere near.
No.
If UW goes to the Big Ten and they're going to get $120 million probably a year or something from those damn contracts. It's going to be such a difference. And if you wanted to keep the Apple Cup going with that, like with WSU trying to just pull itself out of debt, suddenly getting 15, 20 million, $30 million less from TV money, you want those Apple Cup series to keep going? Like I don't like if Washington and Oregon go to the big 14, 16, 18.
Yeah.
If they go over there, I do think the inevitability would be WSU had to drop down. I don't see if the Big 12 then comes for whatever's left. I don't think they're looking at WSU or Oregon State.
I think UW and Oregon know that they are the linchpin. That's no secret for anybody. The issue is that the survival of the Pac-10, 12, whatever, it truly is a matter of like financial life and death for a school like WSU. Like that's not overstating it. Like we have to be able to pay those bills. And look, this is not a situation where, you have a mortgage on a house and you lose your job and you can't make your mortgage payment. And however much time goes by, you end up getting foreclosed on. Well, we got foreclosed on, we'll just suck it up and deal with the foreclosure for the next 7 years on our credit report. And then after that, everything will be fine. Like this isn't that, right? Like that bill those bonds are going to be there no matter what. And somebody is going to have to pay that bill. And that's why like the legislature has gotten involved, behind, it seems like Michael Baumgartner is involved with, sort of coordinating this, but the legislature has a vested interest in this because somebody is going to have to pay that bill. If WSU doesn't stay in the Pac-10, 12, whatever, and suddenly they're making, let's just say generously, they're making $10 million a year on a TV deal instead of, 30 to 35 million, which is, probably
or if WSU merges into a larger conference, the difference could be 40, 50, 60, 70 million dollars per year.
And taxpayers are the ones who are going to pick up that bill. If that's what happens, if WSU drops down to the Mountain West, and by the way, people talking, WSU might drop to the Big Sky. That's fucking bullshit. Like that's never going to happen. That is never going to happen. So it's Mountain West. And someone's going to pick up the tab on these bonds, and that is a financial crisis for the school and for taxpayers. And so the legislature getting involved, trying to make sure that UW and WSU's wagons are sort of tied together. Yeah, that's why that's happening. And so it's definitely going to be fascinating. I thought people who listen to the podcast know that I thought all along WSU eventually was going to end up like kind of in a second tier, behind the top tier. and that we were going to kind of move in. Like right now, we're like in a 2-tier system, right? Power 5, Group of 5, and eventually we were going to move to like 3 tiers, where it's like this mega conference and then something in between, and then kind of what we know as the Group of 5 now. I did not anticipate USC and UCLA jumping to the Big Ten. Like that was an in between step. I did not anticipate.
No,
that sort of throws a red. Like I did not anticipate that happening in the interim on our way to super conferences. So WSU's got to figure that out.
We would joke about it because of SEC and Big Ten dominance before, but now it's legitimately, there is already a tier 1 of SEC and Big Ten, and then tier 2 ACC, Big 12, Pac-12, and then tier 3 much lower the Mountain West and the rest of the Mountain West probably a step above Sun Belt, but who knows with how much people love football down the South. But so the tiers now, there's going to be a stark difference between 1 and 2, but it's going to be such a more stark difference between 2 and 3. And so if WSU does fall to the Mountain West, that new Mountain West is going to be a 3. No, like it's not going to be a 2, level 2.
No.
The level 2 is going to be the reformed Big 12 with the Pac-12 teams and the ACC. And that's, and the ACC is just hoping that the SEC doesn't grab Clemson and Florida State, right? Like, so that's where everything is at right now. So, because why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? The Big 12 went and got, or the Big 10 went and got USC and UCLA. Why can't the SEC just grab Clemson and Florida State? Like, in Miami.
Yeah,
maybe they'll go, get a Miami as well.
And the reason why is, at this point, it's that grant of rights in the ACC. They've signed away, all those teams, all those schools have signed away their rights until, what is it, like 2035 or something like that. So for them to jump ship,
there's going to be, if one of them really want to, and especially if like 2 or 3 of them really want to, there's going to be some lawyer in there. I bet there's got to be no contract can be that absolute. There's got to be some maybe.
But let's be real about who's driving the bus, right? Who's driving the bus?
The TV.
It's ESPN, right? It's ESPN and it's Fox. It's ESPN and the SEC and Fox and the Big Ten. Okay, so whatever happens is going to be because ESPN or Fox wants it to happen. Like Fox is the one who pushed the Big Ten toward USC and UCLA. Fox is based in Los Angeles. Like they covet the Los Angeles market. Now they don't have to deal with the Pac-10, Pac-12 anymore. And, they're good. Like Fox has what they want because Fox is all in on the Big Ten, right? They own Big 12 net or Big 10 network. And, Big Ten, they have the primary Big Ten rights. So, the question is who's driving it. Does ESPN want Clemson, Florida State, Miami to come to the SEC? If they do, then it'll probably figure it out in some way. If they don't, then it probably won't, and it's so weird that that's where it's at, but that's what it is. It's the whole thing with, Notre Dame, like, Notre Dame, of course they want Big Ten wants Notre Dame because that would add value. And that's where, Washington and Oregon, both those schools think they would add a lot of value, or at least their fans. Obviously the schools haven't said anything, but their fans think these 2 schools would add a ton of value to the Big Ten. And, the Big Ten's kind of like, because,
I do
Fox
think
must be telling them maybe not.
Like if you're looking at the 2, I think Washington would be probably more attractive than Oregon.
I would think so.
Yeah. And that's why, it would be highly beneficial if somehow like WSU is kind of legally linked to UW and like they're required to go with, that's otherwise like this is looking pretty bleak.
Yeah.
It's not like like you said, we weren't putting this into the calculus. Maybe we should have been. Like it's because it's so obvious after the fact when you're talking about Fox in LA, all that stuff. But man, like, God,
It's still surprising. I mean, it's still pretty shocking. Like I'm as cynical as
well.
they come.
Think of where the Pac-10 tried to create the first mega conference.
Yep.
That was like honestly like a watershed moment for our fucking blog. Like it was like that was
It was.
like it was. Hat tip to Brian Floyd, buddy. You crushed it. But it was
we rode that
just,
shit.
Yeah. But the Pac-16 for like a week or two seemed like an inevitability and we went from that and now we're on the totally other end of this now.
Yep.
So the Pac, shout out Larry Scott for all we your execution in the end wasn't great, but some of the ideas you had at the beginning were commendable, and that was just out in front of things. It didn't work out. Obviously they did expand, bringing in Utah. Colorado was the one they got from the Big 12 when there was 6.
Yep.
And then Texas realized they basically could just be kind of independent while being in a conference type money. And then so they convinced them to stay, whatever. Dan Beebe's shining moment. Man, bringing y'all back to 2011.
I know.
Let me tell you, fun times.
Good times.
But yeah, this is, I mean, honestly, if the best case scenario for WSU is if Washington and Oregon stay in the Pac-12 and the Pac-12 takes on other teams. So you got to be rooting for that. Otherwise, falling, as you said, falling the Mountain West, not good. Man,
I think at this point, no news is good news.
Yep.
Like, just that there hasn't been a whole bunch of dominoes falling rapidly, and maybe that was never going to happen.
Can I point out just the one thing from Media Day, sticks in my head, is Klyakov saying that USC and UCLA's student athletes will get the same treatment as all the others for the next season, next 2 years, I guess.
It's 2 years.
Yeah, next 2 seasons, and all I'm thinking is like, no. What good, what benefit do you have to pump up these brands anymore?
Yeah,
like, can we just, of all the calls that have went to those teams over the years, can we get a few of them back in the next 2 years, please?
Yeah, can we just fuck them over at every turn for the next 2 years?
What good for you? What good
Schedule
for you
them
is
for
it?
multiple Thursday night football games and
like Monday to Thursdays or Sunday. Or somehow they're
make
on a
them
Monday
travel
night game.
back to back. Yeah.
Just, and then when it goes to review, just make glaring errors against them over and over again. Because what good does it do the Pac-12 if USC wins the conference in football and USC is in it? We haven't even talked about the fucking Rose Bowl, which is pretty much dead at this point. Yeah. But if USC is in the Rose Bowl next year, or USC goes to the college playoff, or UCLA, is in the Final Four in basketball, what good did that, beside the Final Four, maybe a few tens of thousands of dollars for each team, but what good does that do the conference long term if those teams do well? Exactly. So come on, they've gotten plenty of calls. They're the LA schools. Come on, George. Yeah. I hope you were fingers crossed behind your back when he said that, because
I do feel good about him being in charge right now.
Yeah,
way better. I mean, way better than having Larry in charge. You know,
He had
it's,
lost all credibility. It didn't matter anymore.
they obviously made a massive, massive miscalculation by not going for playoff expansion. That was
Oh man, what a
that was a massive
that was the nail in the coffin.
miscalculation. Yeah,
That was
it
the
really
nail
was.
in the coffin.
You know, you look back and it made so much sense, and then you know the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12 all went well. You know, wait a minute. You know, and they're pushing for conference champions and whatever, and you know the I mean, just
If these conferences have
silly.
their if USC if the Pac-12 knows it's getting that automatic chance at a title every year, you know, that's money that's coming in. You're
Yes.
less likely to be able to pull USC, who may think they can be that team every year, UCLA.
Yeah.
You know, that you're not pulling them away like as easily. Now, in retrospect, we see it. Well, obviously, we thought it was dumb at the time. But
the Big Ten, here's what's hilarious though. The Big Ten was one of the conferences pushing against the expansion the way it was being proposed. And it's hard not to look at it now in any other way, but they were like, wait. I'm pushing against this because we're going to get UCLA and USC and we don't
checkers
want
and chess, baby.
Yeah, like honestly, it's hard to look at it and think that that's not what was going on. And the you know ACC and the Pac-12, you know, looked each other in the eye and just got fucked over. You know, just terrible.
It's like those three have been like fighting at each other for years now because they knew it was that kind of hierarchy was already there.
Yep.
And if they would have just been in cahoots, then they could separately exist. But now they have to eat each other.
Well, imagine how different this all feels if this happens and the teams that are left in the Pac-10, the 10 teams that are left, have a guaranteed pathway to the playoff. Like, how different is all of this? Right?
Yeah.
You know,
It's-
you look at Washington and Oregon and, you know, all the teams that are left and you say, hey, all right, so look, I know this is bad and I understand, you know, maybe you want to go to the Big Ten, you know, whatever, but look, you have a path forward in this conference, you know, so let's figure out a way to make this like, it's so whatever. Just that's the stuff that I get mad about. Like the Big Ten taking USC and UCLA. Like, I don't even get mad about that because I'm just like, whatever, man. People are just, you know, they are cravenly greedy. This is, you know, this is the end. I think, you know, our friend Aaron Campo, right, who, you know, No Sadietis and Sounder at Heart and whatever has, you know, all kinds of, he's one of the best follows on Twitter. You know, just he kind of said, like, this is, you know, when late stage capitalism comes for college football, this is, you know, this is basically what it looks like, right? You know, like, this is how we ruin, you know, it's like late stage capitalism ruins everything. And now it's ruining college football, which really, really sucks. And, you know, people are going to make whatever money they can make. And, you know, so none of that surprised me. Is more just like, man, this thing was right fucking there. It was right in front of your face. And you went, no, we are too principled for that. We don't want that. We don't want it like that. We want it like this. And then it's like, in the meantime, you know, you get Wally pipped. Like, I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. It just, that's the stuff that makes me mad.
Yeah, and here we are, and yay.
Yay.
You know, just to add on to just more fun things on top of the pile. One more thing to talk about here before we go to break. Definitely not before we go to sleep. We'll definitely record for another 30-ish minutes after the break tonight.
Yeah.
Definitely will.
Yeah,
Definitely
definitely.
But is the longest consecutive played rivalry on the West Coast, west of the Mississippi, is coming to an end. WSU and
Yeah.
Idaho will not play each other in basketball this year, in men's
Ooh.
basketball.
Yeah, man, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
It's a bummer. Like, there are good reasons why it's happening, but it still sucks.
Yeah, basically, like WSU has to have a certain level of schedule now if they're what they want to do, what they want to go to the tournament. But also, and something we learned in this whole process, shout out to the people that pointed that out to me, and I can't remember at this point. But it was actually source of WSU, but they have to maintain a certain average net rating for their conference schedule. And Jeff, remind me, I think it was like 200 overall or 200 for home.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Was,
I know the conference, in an effort to try and get more teams into the tournament, basically said you have to schedule in this way to have an average blah, blah, blah of net rating, et cetera, et cetera. Like, basically it was a strength of schedule thing. Like, you have to schedule in a certain way to make sure that your strength of schedule is at a certain level because your strength of schedule matters for other teams. Like, that was kind of the idea.
Exactly.
It's not just you're not out here, on an island. Like, whatever you do impacts the other teams in the conference. So you've got to make sure that you, schedule to a certain level. So, that definitely factored into this.
And it's based on average net rating. And Idaho, since net has been
horribly bad.
Implemented in the 4 years, has, I think, in the 320s has been the highest they've landed. Usually in the 340s, 350s. So, like, their net rating has been awful, just a drag on WSU's kind of, that target they have to hit. And then, as it was said to us, they would have to balance that, would have to schedule like a 90s net plus team to balance it out, to make sure they hit
it's
that
really,
average.
really hard to play teams that are in the 300s. Like, that is difficult. And Idaho, so I'm not looking at net right now, but I am looking at KenPom, which is a reasonable approximation.
Yep.
Last 4 years, 324, 350, 323, 348.
Yep, those are around what the net ones were. Yeah.
Like, that is untenable from a scheduling perspective for WSU. Like, they don't play, if we're looking at like, what WSU played last year, I'm just pulling up KenPom again really quick, which again, like, is a reasonable approximation. Idaho was 324. The next lowest that they played was Alcorn at 265. Eastern was 217. Northern Colorado was 216. And then they balanced that with Boise State was 39. Let's see. Winthrop 159, Seattle 139, UCSB 135. So it's like, where you kind of need to be. Honestly, it's really, really tough to schedule anybody below like 225. Like, that becomes pretty darn tough. And when you throw in a 325, it's like, I don't know, man, really, really difficult. So the honest truth is, it's a bummer. Idaho is to blame for this, as awful as that sounds. And I realize we sort of sound like the easy comparison is us and Gonzaga, right?
Yep.
Like the way Gonzaga dropped us. But the reality also is, like, we were never 325. Like, we were never 300 and whatever. Like, that was never, we were like 2 something, like that was never a consideration.
Lowest low. Yeah.
Gonzaga, at our lowest low, Gonzaga, we were like 200. Gonzaga still could have played us. This is not the same. So whatever. It's a bummer, right? Like it's one of those like uniquely cool things to play that. And I don't think anybody thinks it's cool except for us.
It was legit.
But it's cool.
And I think, also it's pointed out to us that, like, it was so rare for a power conference team to play at a team in a like a one bid league
Yes.
on the road. But I will say I loved going to the game at, not just because WSU absolutely destroyed them in what will be the last game of the streak. But they have a beautiful new basketball arena. It's definitely built to be a Big Sky basketball arena, though. Like, it definitely is. Like, they're not going. That's where they are. They're back there. They're staying there. Obviously, with alignment, they're not moving up. And it it was weird for WSU to be playing that game. Now, it was cool. I also went to the Cowan Spectrum in the Kibbe Dome, so it was fun to be able to have every other year. There's a road game that you go, like, they just go over to Idaho. And
when Idaho was in the 200s or low 100s or whatever,
when Ernie Kent was actually them, you mean?
Well, and I'm just saying that, like, it was
generally
it made sense. It made sense to schedule them, though, because okay, you play a road game, but you don't have to like pay for travel. You're just driving over the state line. Like it made sense to play the game. Like, I realize it was,
and they generally
whatever.
Like,
most schools don't play, but for WSU to go over the line and play that game, like, it totally made sense to play a road game there, even if it didn't make sense for however many other Power 5 teams to go play a road game, in a small conference like that every year or every other year, whatever. Yeah, but it made sense for WSU.
And it's been like one of like Idaho's worst stretches. And obviously it coincides when they got dropped down. But if you talk to some people, they think maybe the coaching staff's blame, whatever. Like, they've had a couple coaches that have struggled with this at this point in a row. But if you look at their history, they were generally, like you said, around 200. And so it's, they would at least be in the 200s. And like, you look at KenPom, all those years under Don Verlin, not until his last season, which was their third season in the Big Sky, or actually fifth season in the Big Sky, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, fifth season in the Big Sky, they dropped 348. And then Zach Claus has not been able to change anything about that. And so, but before that, under Verlin, their low was 254. They were generally in the top 200. And even if you go back, they hadn't been in the hit. KenPom goes back to 97. They've never been over 299. And now they're 348, 323, 350, 324 on KenPom. Like, this is an unprecedented level of bad.
Yep.
Idaho has not been at this level, like, probably ever.
Nope.
They have a generally, decent basketball, like, history. And it's,
like, if you're looking, by the way, when you look at KenPom, you're looking, okay, Kermit Davis in 97, right? So that was kind of that's as far back as it goes. Well, before Kermit Davis, I'm pretty sure was Larry Eustace. And he did a pretty good job. So it's like this, it's pretty safe to say what you said, which is like, this is like unprecedented depths to which they've fallen. So,
I mean, and honestly, WSU, when it was in its Ernie Kent state, wasn't unprecedented depths, because like,
we did have Paul Graham.
We did have Paul Graham, and so it's, like, which was only not that long before that. So, so we had, it's, you're right, it's not the same. My initial reaction was like, it felt like it was the same, but yeah, it's a bummer. It's just another bummer.
Yeah,
though.
like, I think that's the best way to describe it. It's just a bummer.
Yeah,
like, we would all like it to continue, but it's a bummer.
It's fun to have a school 8 miles away that you play in, like, most sports all the time, but I guess football has fallen off from not being played as much, and now basketball is on that. So we'll just be all the other non-revenue sports will play Idaho, obviously, because why not? Like it's an easy non-conference game. But yeah, so yeah, I guess I think it's a good time to take a break. I haven't alluded to it yet, but we have a guest today. I probably should have said that up top. Now I'm thinking about it.
Yeah,
But
we're a little out of practice, though.
We have a guest today, and especially because maybe we talked to her before we recorded this part, so maybe it should have been on my mind, but who knows? But we have Kelsey Knutson. She is the host of the CougsFirst podcast. You probably know what CougsFirst is if you listen to this podcast, but if you don't, she'll talk about that, and we'll talk about we'll talk about Wazoo's return and all that good stuff when we come back from the break. Okay, usually Jeff says, and we're back, but apparently he didn't want to say it tonight. Maybe it's because we're recording the second segment.
Man.
Maybe it's because we're recording the second segment first.
We're not actually back from anything right now. It's just we're starting, and then but I'm supposed to be pretending that we're back from something. This is what happens when you don't record an episode for 2 months.
But the funny thing is, you always start the podcast anyway. So I don't know why you didn't say anything. I don't know what was going on in your brain.
I just kind of thought, like, okay, well, here we go, and you know.
Now our listeners get to hear this. Our guest gets to hear this as I mentioned before the break. Note to self: mention that before the break. We are joined tonight by Kelsey Knutson, who is the new host of the CougsFirst podcast. Yes, we are hosting a rival podcast here. But yes, Kelsey, my friend Rochelle, I kind of found you through her, but I'm super excited to have you here. So welcome.
Thank you. Very excited to be here.
But the very first question I have for you, the most important thing, and what our listeners would be expecting coming out of the break is, but before we talk about anything, what are you drinking?
Oh, what a great question. I happened upon I panicked at Safeway today and asked the internet to tell me what Cougar-owned breweries exist near me, and come to find No Lie is one of them. And so I have a No Lie Born and Raised IPA in hand, and we're going to kick it off with that.
Yeah. So,
little ASMR moment.
Oh, very nice. We got, there we go. So what you have to tell us is what you think of the beer. That's part of the beer segment here.
Oh, okay. I can do that. Honestly, I know, Craig, you're like a big beer guy, and I know what I like, but I don't know how to describe it, so you're going to cringe at how I explain this.
So, you know
I'm getting...
That,
go ahead.
That makes you fit in perfectly, because that's me.
Okay,
so
great.
It's like I am like at least 75% of the time talking out of my ass when I'm telling what I think of the beer. And I'm just hoping that Craig affirms what I say, so that I can sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So you trust me, you're fine. You're fine. Go for it.
I'm in good company. Great. I was going to say, so full disclosure, I'm not usually an IPA person. Like I said, panic bought, there were 2 options. So I bought this one. Honestly, I'm getting kind of Mac and Jack vibes, and it's pretty good. It's got some nice flavor. It's not too hoppy, and yeah, I'd give it like a solid 8 out of 10. Would drink again.
I'd
Good
say
job.
like that's describing Born and Raised. That's pretty good because Born and Raised is a very malty IPA.
Yeah.
So that makes sense, and go Cougs. I'm guessing the other one that they have is Wrecking Ball.
Yes.
The big stout. Yeah, which that's not the best weather for that one. But yeah, thank you for drinking with us, of course, and thank you for bringing a Coug beer, which
Yeah.
on brand for CougsFirst.
Of course, of course.
But now, Jeff, this time you're going second, Jeff. What are you drinking?
Whew. Pressure's on now to say something insightful. The good news is I am drinking a beer that I am like 100% certain you've had before, so you can bail me out if I don't say something. But this is the Spirit Crusher Double IPA from Holy Mountain.
Nice.
So yeah, it's delicious. I've had it for a while. In fact, it is. I took it camping with me last week and didn't drink it, and then I put it back in the fridge, and now it the can got beat to shit in the cooler. But it still tastes beautiful. Nice hazy, fruity flavor to it. You would never know. Very easy drinking. You'd never know it's a double if you didn't know it was a double. You could get yourself in some real trouble with this sucker if you had a couple of them without knowing what you were drinking. So yeah, totally delicious. Love it.
Very good. Yeah, that's definitely one of their haziest, like one of their kind of most, as you said, easy drinking IPAs they make. Holy Mountain, big fans, of course. Does it still have the red label? They've been getting fancy with their labels. Yeah.
No, it's just a black label with red lettering, and yeah.
Very
Little,
good. Holy Mountain, good
yeah.
peeps.
Yeah.
Holy Mountain News. They're opening up a second tap room in Finney Ridge. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
How about opening one in Tacoma? Come on now.
Yeah, that would be great.
That's what we
I
need.
I know they love the E9 folk. Just maybe just like
just come on down.
Yeah,
maybe
Finney
that's
Ridge
why
isn't
they
even
wouldn't.
that far from where they are now. Come on, they're not.
I
moving.
know.
They're just having a second one.
I know. That's what I'm saying though. Like, I don't know. Maybe they don't want to infringe on E9's territory. Maybe we don't need the Sharks and the Jets, going after it in the streets of Tacoma.
Like,
So,
and I'm
we don't
mostly
need a
just
turf
glad
war.
you're drinking an 8.5% beer because
Yes.
I had a little bit of chocolate before we did this, and I had went for a walk, so my metabolism was running high. So I'm just glad you're going to come level with me in a little bit. So
Well,
very
what's
good
hilarious is I'm going to be. Usually the podcast gets weirder as we go because the beer gets deeper as we go. Except this time it's going to be the reverse. I'm going to be like totally buzzed when we actually start the podcast.
stuff. I know. Usually our beers
30,
are almost
30
done by
minutes in
time
the
we're-
past from when people are listening to this segment. So
It's like a
Yeah,
time machine.
we've definitely
it's
been
totally like a
recording
time
for
machine.
over an hour at this point. Yeah. So
This
good
is my
choice,
first
Jeff.
beer in
That's
80
good.
days, so I'm along for the ride.
In how many days?
80.
80?
wow.
Yeah,
Like,
I did this thing
just
called 75
beer or-
hard.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
so
no alcohol or anything.
Yeah, no alcohol. I did a test run and had some wine a couple days ago just to make sure I wouldn't die today. And I'm good.
Well, we
But I didn't
appreciate
have
that.
beer, so
You're
I
good.
just want you to know I'm along for
We
this colorful conversation.
We appreciate the effort, the test runs. I've been watching the rehearsal, Nathan Fielder's HBO Max show recently, and that reminds me of that. So I'm loving that.
Yeah.
But I guess no one's gonna ask me. But what I'm drinking.
Yeah, Craig, what are
is-
you drinking, man?
So
What are
I
you
don't think
drinking?
I'm not sure if I've drank a Ravenna beer on the show before, but this is a recommendation from the good folks over at Beer Star, a block from my house. So Ravenna Brewing and Georgetown Brewing, and the beer is called, in parentheses, General Ocean Theme, and it does have a beautiful label with like a humpback, maybe a humpback whale, maybe it's a blue whale, I don't know, a giant octopus, there's a squid, all this like pretty stuff, and a boat, very nice. Ravenna makes very nice labels. So the funny thing is, this IPA, it's very kind of golden color, very light colored, probably very different from what Kelsey is drinking in terms of color, and probably more like the color that you're drinking, Jeff, but it is clear. It's a one of those clear IPAs. Have you heard of these things? They make them now.
I seem to recall in the distant past IPAs that you could actually see through.
This does remind me of, so before the hazy IPAs became a thing, these kind of heavily dry hopped, lightly bitter, very low malt bill or light malt bill beers were getting. That was kind of precursor to hazies. Like IPAs got less bitter, they got more tropical, more aromatic, and so this reminds me of that, and I'm loving it because that's when I was living in Vermont. A lot of beers like this, like, it's beautiful beer. It's very tasty, definitely very like light bitterness, heavy tropical aromas. Probably smells a lot like yours, Jeff, but it's just clear, which I'm all about now. Hazies, I like them. I'm kind of tired of them. I'm like going back to the West Coast, the clear IPAs. Like Noli Born and Raised is kind of an old school West Coast IPA with like the kind of darker malt bill that Kelsey picked up on. But yeah, so the funny thing about this beer is there is a QR code on the side that says hops, description, and canning date. So you scan that. But when you go to it, there is a page for general ocean theme. No picture. Obviously, they forgot to put that. And then there's just kind of, and then it says, it all started when. And then if you ever kind of built a WordPress website or anything like that, they fill space where words should be with like Latin jargon, like just Latin nonsense. I assume it's
the
nonsense.
lorem ipsum? Is it the lorem ipsum?
Yeah, like the lorem ipsum stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
And so
Journalism
yeah,
nerds
exactly.
know all about that.
I know. High five,
lorem
virtual
ipsum.
high five.
That's right.
So yeah, so they never filled. They put the title on this page, and they never filled out the rest. So I don't really know what this beer is about. I looked it up on. Oh, here we go. They actually have it on Untapped. So it is. They want it to be a summer IPA, crisp, dry, crushable. It's a cool fermented IPA, so it's kind of like a cold IPA. That's cool. Those are the cool things right now. You ferment beers and you ferment, even though they're with ale yeast, you ferment them at a lager temp, which is like 40 degrees, and so it takes longer, crisper. I think they definitely like use some lager yeast in there, but it's very delicious. I'm digging that style. This definitely reminds me of that. So. Cool stuff. Ravenna, Georgetown, general ocean theme. So that was beer. I guess now that Kelsey has told us about her beer, she can tell us about, why we brought her on here, about your new podcast and what you're doing with that.
Yeah. Well, the short story, I'll try to keep it short. So I already have my own podcast called When I Grow Up Pod. It's advice you would give younger you, and I had Tony Poston on months ago talking about College Hill stuff and just how he was able to scale the business, advice he gave himself along the way, that kind of stuff. Fast forward, and CougsFirst is kind of a business networking group. The whole premise of it is Cougs should support Cougs, whether you're hiring, you need products or services, just how do we support each other beyond our time at university? So I was already kind of aware of CougsFirst, what it was doing. I understood all of that. And then Tony gets hired as the executive director. And I jokingly say, you should have like a podcast on it. And that turned into, hey, Kelsey, you want to host a podcast for CougsFirst? And here we are.
that is how those things always happen. That
Absolutely.
is always how they happen.
Yes. So that's it. We have a podcast. We have 4 live episodes. We kicked it off, let's see, at the time of recording a couple of weeks ago, and episode number 4, which was our big launch, was the president. So I got to have a half-hour conversation with Kirk and act like it was just a casual Tuesday. So yeah, it's going great.
That sounds awesome. We've never had Kirk Schultz.
Yeah, we've never had the
167
president on.
episodes. To be fair, I don't think we ever asked. But I bet the
That
answer
is
would
true.
The answer would be no. But
We'd be like, so in order to be on our show, you got to drink a beer and you got to tell us what you think. And he'd be like, I'm out.
Okay,
have to
no,
say the
really
F
though,
word.
I wanted
Yeah, and we swear
to drink a
too,
beer with
yeah.
every. No, I wanted to drink a beer with every guest, and we just we weren't able to get it together for the first few, but we do have some ideas of potentially bringing that in with some of our sponsors in the future, potentially, maybe. So
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm
Yeah.
impressed you can record a podcast without drinking a beer. That's just impressive in my book.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. But I mean, my business, what I do for a living, I'm a business coach. And so the podcast for me is a way to reach more people and also have content I can serve and send off to people. So if people need an episode on what you should have on your website, I can send them that kind of content. So it's very much a part of my business.
Awesome.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
So what are you trying to accomplish with the podcast? Like what's the goal in terms of like, so CougsFirst, like maybe give like a quick rundown of
Yeah.
like what CougsFirst exists for and then how the podcast fits in with that overall mission.
Absolutely. It's been around for, I believe, about 11 years. It's a nonprofit, so it's separate of WSU. And I know some things. I'm not like fully invested, but I actually used to work for WSU. So I knew about CougsFirst in the beginning. Then I went off and did a bunch of other things, and I know what it's like now. In short, like I said, the whole idea is that if you need products or services, there's a full directory. You can look by industry. That's how I was able to figure out this beer situation today. But the idea being there's different Cougar brand businesses and we should support them. And also, if you're looking for a job, they have trade shows and you can come and network, and they have different events. They're actually hosting after hours networking events now that are going to be free and with rotating locations. So there's a lot of effort to help support Cougs beyond college. Whether they have a business or they're looking to build their careers or they're looking to buy stuff, they kind of have something for everyone. The podcast came about because a lot of people, especially my generation, I graduated 2012, don't know what CougsFirst is. And so me personally as the host and in conversation with a lot of the team there, we see an opportunity just to reach more people. In the podcast, ultimately, we just want quick 30-minute awesome stories of different Cougs. So whether we're talking business or, you know, we're going to have a past Butch on, we're going to have Jack Thompson on, I talked to him tomorrow, all kinds of different Cougs, and ultimately just sharing the stories and the common thread of what it is to be a Coug. And then hopefully they see CougsFirst as a way to help support that. So that's the goal. That's where we're going.
Very cool. Yeah. That's what, we try to reach that's what we were doing, trying to reach. I don't know what we were doing. Jeff told you before. We just were bored. But yeah, so that's very cool. You mentioned you graduated in 2012. So obviously some thin football years up in there. But yes. So I'm just happy you're still involved with the university. Thank you.
That's fair.
Give us a memory of Pullman, a memory of WSU sports or otherwise. Yeah, kind of your favorite, just to kind of introduce yourself to our listeners.
Well, I was a cheerleader in high school, and a journalism nerd in high school as well. So I was very involved in all things that tied to the high school. Really proud of where I went. And when I went to WSU, I was glad that everyone else shared that same passion for the university. So that's something that really drew me to WSU. I'm the girl, like, I love to watch football. I want to watch the game. I don't know the stats. I don't know every single player, but I definitely know what's going on. So as far as like the spectrum of sports know-how, that's kind of where I land. However, freshman year, I think it was before winter break, and it was that stupid football game where it was basically a soccer game. I think you probably both know which one I'm talking about. And I left the game to walk back to Stripe Parham to head back home to get an early start. Because at this point, we had lost the last kick. And I'm like, it's over. We lost. And I distinctly remember the crowd cheering as I'm walking towards Stripe Parham. And I missed the winning kick. And I just remember being so frustrated. And also not knowing how terrible the rest of the season was going to be. It just totally kicked me moment. I missed out on that game.
Yeah, there weren't very many highs. So
no.
When you missed one, it was like,
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was at that game. I rushed the field afterwards because you got to rush the field when you're beat like a whatever UW was 0-10 at the time.
I think it was that year, right?
When you beat an 0-10 team. Yep. Yeah. So great. great memory. I'm sorry you missed it. You know, you just. But honestly, after that season, I don't like. I don't know why you would have any optimism. And then the next few years didn't get any better. So.
No, it did not. And even basketball had like individual people who were fun to watch, but I feel like we never really had a solid team to watch.
Yeah, obviously you had Clay, so
right, of course.
You know, of all the players to watch individually, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, they fell short of the NCAA tournament and all that. But so that's cool. Like, obviously, since you're a big into the university, and Jeff, I wanted to talk about this. What I'm really excited about right now with Wazoo is that Wazoo is a thing again, like from an official capacity.
Yeah, like I wasn't sure that would ever happen again, you know. But it's one of the things. Okay, so one of the very frustrating things about the online sort of space is, you know, you got to find something unique that you can carve out as your own, right? And so WSU went, you know, go Cougs for a while, hashtags, things like that, which is great. I mean, we all say go Cougs. It's in the fight song, you know. I mean, it's wonderful. And yet we ended up bleeding over into or being taken over. I don't know, but like BYU came hard
Yes.
for go Cougs,
Yes.
which was so bizarre because that was like not a thing for that, at least as far as I know. Like they were very much like Cougars. We were go Cougars.
They're using it with permission from WSU. They put it on their uniforms and everything.
It's so bizarre because I have never known that to be like an actual like BYU thing until recently. And then it's, you know, BYU is, I mean, those people are psycho. So, you know, we really had, we really, I'm sorry.
Like we're going to
really
gloss over
chance.
that one.
No,
Jeff,
like
I just like those people, Jeff. What do you mean
I'm
by
not,
those people?
Listen, it's not like I just got done watching Under the Banner of Heaven. Okay. So I'm just saying like, it's like when they decide that they are doing something, it is like, it's oppressive with how full bore they go into it.
I mean, they are unified culture. Like there's a
unifying
force.
And there's a lot of that. And there's a lot of that. A lot of them.
There's way more BYU fans than WSU fans.
Yeah. And so to be honest, like that's like a huge part of the reason why on Twitter I started doing like GFC, right? Because I'm like, well, the Mormons aren't going to touch go fucking Cougs, so why don't we go ahead and start doing that, right? So that's all to say, like Wazoo has been sitting there the whole time, right? Like it's been there the whole time. It's a thing that's only us. Yeah. Nobody's going to use it except for us. It's only us, and so I am tickled. I am thrilled that they have decided to lean into this because it is us, and I think it's great.
Yeah, I love it. So my uncle who went to WSU and was an AKL, he was a houseboy. He was a total frat guy back in like the 60s. And when I went to WSU, I remember him saying, if you ever come across something that says Wazoo on it, will you please just buy it? Because at that time, you know, the name was hard to find. So I'm sure he's thrilled too. Yeah. I'm sure he's thrilled. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's awesome. Like it's like every Coug alum loves Wazoo. Like the term Wazoo, we all use it, even though the university hasn't really used it in an official capacity for decades. That we still use it. You can still find it sometimes on clothes. I was even disappointed in the home field release. There wasn't as much Wazoo stuff in there. I thought maybe WSU itself may have played a role in that, but
it's possible.
A lot of good shirts, though. I am an official ambassador, so a lot of good shirts. I
should buy those shirts.
I buy every single one of them, and they're all great. But so yeah, home field, check them out. But yeah, so Wazoo is just, you always see like Mizzou is what I always think of, and that is such a brand for them, and that is who they are. Like they put it on the uniforms. People call them that, Mizzou. But we've had Wazoo sitting there, and we were so lax in using it that people started spelling it Wazzou, because that's the way Mizzou is spelled. And so we kind of lost that, and we've had to scream at journalists over the last 10 years to be like, no, it's Wazzu. And honestly, from a writing perspective, Wazoo, it's always nice to have another like term when you're writing about the same thing over and over again. You can go WSU, you can go Wazoo, you can go the Cougars, whatever, Washington State, whatever. But like, if I'm in like marketing for the university, to be able to use Wazoo again just sounds awesome. It's another way, and yeah, like, so there's a Google I know named Ron Schott, and I know he works in like advertising and stuff, and he said it great. He said, "Go Cougs" is a greeting and a great one, but Wazoo is a brand, and exactly like what Mizzou has with Mizzou, we should have with Wazoo, and we've kind of laxed on that. So maybe it's just the football team, the athletic department is going to use it, but that's probably good enough, honestly, at this point. There's nothing more visible, but I hope we see it on uniforms. I hope we see it on the helmets again. A basketball uniform for both teams with Wazoo, soccer uniforms, all of it. Like, get Wazoo everywhere, and I hope this is the start of that.
Yep, I absolutely feel the same way. It's so hard to find something that's like only yours, and like this is only us. And leaning into it has always made sense. I don't know how much truth there is to this, but I think it's true that it was, V Lane, right, decided that, Wazoo was too closely connected to the party image of the school or something.
Party image. Yeah. That was what I heard when I was in school.
And it was, I like I said, I don't know if that's more urban legend or reality at this point, but regardless, that was about the time we really kind of stopped using it. And I'm glad it's coming back. It totally makes sense. It's, like you said, it's a brand, and those things are like hard. Those are hard to come by. And so, we got one sitting right there, and I'm glad that, especially a football team, where you're looking for, anything to sort of differentiate yourself, recruiting wise, social media wise, things like that. Makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I am fully stoked, completely stoked.
And like they said, we are Wazoo. That's cool. That's just a thing right there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Massive fireworks. I don't know if the Rainiers are having a fireworks night or something. Sorry, hearing out my window.
On a Tuesday night.
On a Tuesday night. The classic Tuesday night fireworks. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe someone just hit home run or something. But yeah, so Kelsey.
Yes.
I know you had another thing you wanted to talk about, and I forgot what it was.
Oh boy.
It was good. It was.
Oh, I know.
We are such professionals.
I totally
I remember now. I remember too.
Oh, so are you gonna go?
I'll do. So our basically the most popular person on Die Hard Cougs, like and like our most beloved recent alum, has put his home up for sale. His home is up for sale, and anyone can buy it, and it doesn't matter where you live, right?
Yeah, because it can come to you. Yes.
So Gardner Minshew is selling his prison bus that turned RV.
Yeah. And I watched the video montage about it. Was I there when he was there? No. No, I was not. But he was just so fun to watch that, and the guy understands branding and marketing pretty darn well. So it's just fun to watch what stuff he puts out there. And the fact that he's selling this van he's been living in, and his whole montage is very like 70s vibes, and he's wearing WSU stuff in it, is pretty rad.
Yeah, it's so Gardner Minshew. to like it, like where does this bag of tricks does he have that he has to be more Gardner Minshew? He keeps finding ways to be more Gardner Minshew. I don't know if he has, like you said, very good with the marketing. I don't know if he has a team working on this, but sometimes it feels like this cannot be real. This narrative cannot be real.
Yeah, with the
Well, I mean,
jorts and the
given the way-
mullet.
Yeah, but I mean, like, given the way he marketed himself at Wazoo, he definitely did not have a team then, right? I mean, he was just
Right.
like some dude from
Yeah.
East Carolina who was, potentially going to go be a coach at Alabama because he couldn't do anything else anymore. And it was, and yet he found a way to kind of break on through there. I think like the stories that I read from when he was like, in high school and stuff, like it seems like this sort of comes naturally to him. So yeah, when I saw that he was living in a bus outside the gym where he was working out, and he was wasn't he like taking baths like in the lake nearby or
Yes.
something like that? Like
Yes.
the dude is like he is fully committed to the bit, and I love it.
Yeah. I know, we're saving for a house, and I had told my boyfriend about this, who's also a Coug, and he was like, I think we should buy it. And I was like, I'm good. I'm good. Like, I think it's funny, but I really don't know what happened in there, and I'm good not doing that.
What are you suggesting, Kelsey? What sorts of activities might go on inside a bus?
I
such
think
as
the
that?
ladies like Gardner, and I think a bus
Oh.
just allows for more of that everywhere, and I'm just gonna leave it
Okay.
there.
Those thighs. You
you
can't
know,
resist those thighs.
I mean, they are nice thighs.
Yeah.
I mean, they are very nice thighs.
Yes.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, I'm
Where do we
jealous.
even go from here? This is fantastic.
Oh
I don't
man. Well, I guess where we go is the end. Sorry.
or the beginning, depending on where you're at with everything.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Or we'll go to the beginning.
We'll go back to the beginning.
So
The end is the beginning, and the beginning
so
is
what
the
I'd-
end. Craig, think
what I'd
about
like
that
to
for a
hear-
little while.
Kelsey, I just added you on LinkedIn. So we should be LinkedIn friends soon. Yeah, so other than your LinkedIn profile, like do you have anything to promote? Obviously CougsFirst, let everyone know where to get that, and then anything else you want to promote about yourself?
Thank you. First of all, is any of this? Are you guys on? Are you Instagram people or no?
Craig is.
I am. I have a personal Instagram, but we don't have a podcast Instagram.
Okay, because
We
I was
are-
snooping and I couldn't find it, and I didn't know if it was a me thing or.
No, we don't have a podcast Instagram. We have a podcast Twitter because that's our brand. Twitter is our brand.
I don't even know my Twitter password anymore, so I would have to like resurrect that profile. So shout out Rochelle, thank you for connecting us on the Twitter.
She didn't even tag you. Like it was just at Kelsey, and I was like, "Who's this person that you didn't even like?" It wasn't even there wasn't an at. Like it was. There was, yeah. I think there was an at, but like just your name,
That's great.
without not linked to anything. Yeah.
That's great.
So follow Kelsey on Twitter is what she's saying. What about Instagram?
Yeah, you'll see some
anything else?
nice posts from like 2012. That's probably the last time I said anything. So who knows what I said back then. First of all, please listen to the CougsFirst podcast. It's been really fun to make, and it's a quick half hour, so they're easy, digestible episodes. The first one's my cougar story. Then we have Tony kind of explaining the direction of where it's going. Glenn Osterhout, who's one of the board members, talks about the history of it. And President Kirk Schultz, shares some WSU fun facts. We're coming out every 2 weeks. We're on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, all the podcast places at the CougsFirst podcast. And then for my business, I mean, if you want a little business podcast, I don't know what demographic of your audience would resonate with that, but my podcast is called When I Grow Up Pod. Everywhere, same thing. But I'm probably most active on Instagram, which is at Kelsey Marie Knutson. And my website is
Cool.
also Kelsey Marie Knutson. So any businessy things. I have a women business networking group down in Puyallup area. I have the podcast. I'm hosting a business retreat in Mexico next year. So I'm all kinds of business support, whether you're a small team or have a couple people under your belt.
You know, I don't
Awesome.
suggest the Hacienda Encantada.
Yeah, we have not recorded since then.
Oh boy. What a cliffhanger.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful place.
Oh, gorgeous. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Dun, dun, dun.
We'll probably get into that another time. I forgot that we haven't recorded since my wedding. So.
I know. Our last episode was 2 weeks before your wedding.
So if you want to catch up on my wedding, you can follow me at Craig W. Powers on Instagram. I got one of those, saved story things. What do you call them? I don't know.
A highlight.
A highlight. I have a highlight. 37-year-old explains Instagram. But so I have a highlight. If you just want to see things from my wedding, me gloating about my wife. I don't know what the other type word was. Showering my wife with love and affection that she neither wants nor approves of on Instagram. But yeah, so lots of that. If you want to catch up with the wedding, because apparently we haven't talked about it because we've literally not recorded in over a month. So yeah, but if you want to, if you like this and you haven't subscribed and you haven't given us 5 stars, do those things wherever you are. If you don't want to give us a 5-star rating, then just don't leave a rating. I don't want anything else. But if you really hate us, give us a 5-star rating and just leave a really mean comment because I like reading those too. But yeah, so do all that. Tell a friend about us. We like that. And then if you want to follow me on Twitter, my most favorite social media thing, probably because of my age and because I was a journalist, but at the Craig Powers. And then if you want to follow Jeff, basically at Pod versus Everyone. So that's it. That's all. We end every podcast, of course, by saying, "Go Cougs."
Go Cougs, Craig. Black Lives Matter.
Go.
Black Lives
Cougs.
Matter. Go
Get
Cougs.
back. We are way out of practice on this.
That's like the longest goodbye in my life.